families who are unable to join. Welcome to our benchmark night. Thank you so much for joining. We are very grateful to the families who are able to participate in events like this. My name is Miss Garisco. I'm a fourth grade math and science teacher at Norman Binkley. This is my third year here, previously taught fifth grade, but I'm very happy in fourth.
Awesome. And I am Miss McLeod. I am the fourth grade ELA teacher, along with Miss Winecoop and Miss Baltimore, who I see is in our meeting. I just want to say thank you all for joining. This is my first year at Norman Binkley, so I'm excited to see all of you and answer some questions about ELA if I can.
So for tonight's presentation, you will get a snapshot of what our students experienced with their quarter one benchmark test. We will share some of the most missed questions for the overall grade level and some strategies and feedback just to help prepare them for their next benchmark, which comes at the end of quarter two. So our objectives for tonight, we want to understand the purpose of our quarterly benchmarks. We want to review those most commonly missed question types. We want to discuss strategies and ideas for success on the next administration of the test. You will need your child's performance report packet. They should have come home with it today. In that packet, there's a copy of your child's quarter one benchmark assessment. You may use a pencil, and we are going to ask that you please mute yourself during the presentation. We will use the chat feature in the Teams meeting to address any questions at the end.
We also have the option for live captions within Teams. You should be able to see a Spanish translation underneath our PowerPoint, but if you require another language, you are able to do that within Teams. So here is how you can do it. If you click the More button, it's those three dots, I believe at the top of your screen, and then scroll down to Language and Speech, and then click on Turn on Live Captions. From there, you can choose your preferred language.
So our purpose of the benchmark administration, why do we give these tests? The quarterly benchmark assessments allow teachers to check the temperature of where we are in regards to readiness for TN Ready, which is the big test we take at the end of the school year. It informs instructional decisions to help best support students where it's needed most. So these assessments, they provide that, again, that quarterly snapshot of student achievement based on grade level standards. And the benchmark assessments will be administered in TCAP grades. So these tests are given from third through fifth grade. And they're given in the subjects ELA, math, and science.
So we are going over the quarter one benchmark tonight, which we administered through the window September 25th through October 3rd. We will have two more throughout the year. So the next one is at the end of quarter two, which is what we are currently in. And so we will administer that from December 11th to the 20th, so right before winter break. And then our quarter three benchmark is going to be February 26th to March 6th of 2025. So we will have two more of these to go over before TN Ready.
So again, within that packet, you should have a paper that looks very similar to this one. It's going to have different colors on it. That is your child's report. And they're going to have one for ELA, and they will have one for math. So just be sure that you're finding that title so you know this is where my child stands in ELA, and here's where they're standing in math according to this test. So your child's packet has two reports that look like this. Again, one is for ELA, one is for math. And the number at the top shows their performance on this recent benchmark. And the bottom or the back of the page shows the answer choices that they selected next to the correct answers. So on your screen right now, you can see at the bottom of that page, there's 2 long rows. So you'll see your child's response and then what the correct response was. And we're going to kind of break down what the percentages mean in just a minute.
And we were aiming for our students to get 65% or higher on these assessments. Sorry, I didn't
Yes.
click that earlier.
No, important
So
to say.
for our quarter one, here are mastery cut scores. You can see they are different for ELA and math. So it is compared across the entire district. So for ELA, a score in the blue, which is above expectations, that would be a score of 81.25% and above. A score of a green, which is at expectations. That's really what we're looking for. We're looking for in the green or in the blue. That's actually a score of 56.25% to 81.25%. So anywhere within that range. And then our yellow for ELA. So that is approaching those expectations, that proficiency. That score is 31.25% to 56.25%. And then in the red, that is below expectations. That's any score from 0% to 31.25%. Again, you should have been sent home a copy today of both ELA and math, so you can kind of see your child's score and where they fell on that range. For math, the scoring was a little different. So in order to score above expectations, which again was that blue color, you would have to score a 94.12% or above. And then to fall in the green proficiency, that is a score between 70.59% and 94.12%. And then again, going down to the yellow, which is approaching expectations or approaching proficiency, we were looking for a score of 47.06% to 70.59%. And finally, in the red, which is below proficiency, that would be any score from 0 to 47.06%. So we really are looking for a score of a 65 for both math and ELA, but you can see the breakdown here of the specific scores. So I guess we can give a moment here if you want to check your own child's performance on the quarter one benchmark. That should have been sent home today. I think it came home in a packet with like a purple sheet on it. So you can take a look there at where they fell.
Now, another way to look at this is sort of as levels, right? So level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Those correlate with those exceeding expectations as a level 4, meeting expectations at a level 3, approaching, which is level 2, and then below expectations, which is your level 1. So again, this really just shows that like 65% is sort of the magic number, right? I think sometimes too, when we think of a 65%, you think like, oh, that's an F, right? Like as a letter grade. But when you're doing a standardized test like these, those percentages are much different. So really, like if your child, for example, scored 64% in math, they are very, very close to meeting that level 3 meeting expectations. And as teachers, we review all of their scores and we create plans based on their levels. So we really can like tap into the potential of these kids and say, hey, you were just a couple of points away from that level 3. Like we're gonna do this, this, and this over the next 9 weeks to really help you, to push you into that level 3, level 4. All right, we're going to get into the math section of our benchmark. So if you have your pencils as parents, you're going to get an opportunity to sort of try to like work out some of these problems and see if you can match up with your 4th grade student. So 4th grade quarter 1 math focuses. These were the units that we covered at the beginning of 4th grade, and these were the units that were covered on the benchmark for quarter 1. Unit 1, we went over generating patterns, which shapes, numbers. Unit 2, prime and composite numbers. So building off of that multiplication fluency that they did in 3rd grade. Unit 3, compose and decompose fractions and mixed numbers. We do a lot of work with fractions in the 4th grade. So a lot of like putting together pieces to make fractions, breaking them apart to make unit fractions, mixed numbers, fractions greater than 1, all fractions everywhere. Unit 4, equivalent and comparing fractions. Unit 5, operations with fractions. So adding and subtracting, multiplying, and that one continues into quarter 2. That's actually the unit that we're sort of wrapping up right now. On the next several slides, we're going to be discussing some of the most commonly missed questions and the skills and understandings necessary to demonstrate success on future assessments. And before we get into the ones that were like missed commonly, these are our celebrations. So 75% of our students got these questions correct. Very amazing, like very proud of them. Students showed perseverance throughout this assessment by showing their work, checking their answers, and just simply taking their time. So if you take a look, we've got questions 1, 2, and question 14. Question 1 is asking to find an expression that has a value of 8/10. So this goes back into that decomposing of fractions. So which one of those, when added together, would equal 8/10? And I hope some parents are out there trying to do this math right now. I'm sure that would make your child and your teachers very happy. And question 2, what should the next figure look like if this pattern continues? So that was something that we learned at the very beginning of 4th grade math. And for this one, that pattern is expanding each time by 2. Question 14, what number belongs in the blank in the number pattern below? So we've got 4, 11, 18, 25. Students would have to figure out what that number pattern is to fill in the blank and then move on to 39 and 46. So they really were able, we were proud of them with the patterns because we had not really revisited that since the beginning of the school year, and they retained that very well. We're going to get into some of our multi-select questions next. Now, multi-select questions, we have them on the benchmarks, we have them on TN Ready. It just means that the student is having to choose 2, 3 correct answers. And the thing with these is that it requires the student to name, or excuse me, these questions can be tricky because it is an all or nothing. So if you're looking at your child's report and you see their answer choices, so for this one, for example, if they chose A, B, and C, right? They got one of them correct, but because they got the other 2 incorrect, the whole thing is wrong. So this just takes a lot of perseverance through these. So for this question, which of the following fraction models represent 2 and 1/6? You need to choose 3 that are correct. And for this one, students would really need to have a really good understanding of what does 2 and 1/6 mean? How many sixths are being represented there, right? So you can tell by each of those shapes, they've been partitioned into 6 parts. But what does it mean if there's 2 wholes that have been partitioned into 6 parts, plus that 1 extra, right? So 12 and 1 would make your 13. So you're looking for 13 shaded in pieces out of the 6. And I think the correct answers are going to pop up for you in just a second. We've got B, D, and E as our correct ones. And again, this is just fraction fluency that we are going to continue talking about a lot in the 4th grade. Question 7. Lucia wants to create a fraction that is equal to 3/4. Which statement best describes how Lucia can make a fraction that is equal to 3/4? So this one is about equivalent fractions. We did a lot of modeling with this type of work where students would draw what 3/4 look like. And in order to find an equivalent fractions, students would have to partition or cut or multiply, right? Each of those pieces. So you could partition them into 2 parts. So the 3 is doubling, the 4 is doubling. This is a single select question. If 3/4 is partitioned or split into those equal parts, it would result in an equivalent fraction because you're multiplying the numerator and the denominator by 3. And as a parent, if you're at home with your child right now and that is like, wait, what? I didn't learn it that way. I challenge you to ask your child to show you what that looks like. Ask them to show, what does 3/4 look like? Can you draw that as a visual model? And then ask them to partition those parts into smaller pieces. And you'll see why the 3, like why multiplying it, the numerator and the denominator, why it results in an equivalent fraction. All right, question number 17. This is fractions on a number line, but also finding an equivalent fraction. So which fraction has the same value as the point shown on the number line? Well, if you're looking at this number line, we start at 0, it goes to 1, and it's been partitioned into 3 parts, right? So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 equals your 1/2. Again, students would have to partition those parts or multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number in order to find an equivalent fraction. Well, your 2/3 can become 6/9 by partitioning them in half, right? You're putting 2 tick marks between each one of those thirds. Okay, here's another all or nothing, right? These multi-select questions. John made this fraction model to track his work as he paints his room. The shaded part shows the amount that he painted. And if you're kind of taking a step back from it and you can see the visual, I mean, you can tell, okay, we've got 4 shaded in out of 8. Looks like it's half, right? It's a very clear fraction. Students are going to have to choose 3 correct answers for this. So which are equivalent fractions for the unshaded part that he still has left to paint? Choose the 3 correct answers. So you've got to think like, okay, 4/8, what's going to be equivalent to that? Well, if you're shading in the unshaded part, right? Some of this is going to go down. So you can look at it as 1/2, you can look at it as 2/4, and of course you can see it as 4/8. And those all or nothing, we teach our students strategies when they're taking these tests. And during that first test, we were really practicing this one strategy where when they see a question that says multi-select or choose 3, choose 2, that they should like, oh, I need to flag this question. I need to mark this question because it is of high priority and I need to go back, make sure I go back and check that work at the end of my test before I hit submit, just so I can make sure that I like worked this out thoroughly and I went through all those answer choices. So we are just going to keep drilling that with our students, those multi-selects. Our focus in math for Q2, Unit 5, operations with fractions. Our next unit, we're going to start representing and comparing decimals. We will go into place value understanding and then into addition and subtraction strategies. And a lot of this builds off from 3rd grade skills. Some of it is new. And we're going to continue to, like the stuff in Q1 doesn't go anywhere. We are constantly spiral reviewing those things during BINC time and during our Tier 1 instruction in the classroom. Now, to help with fluency and to help with this retaining of the information, students are going to get a math homework page every week. It is not mandatory, but it is we highly encourage you guys to get it done. So what it would look like is a suggestion of what they can do each day. We typically start with an iReady lesson at the beginning of the week. So on Monday, it would say iReady, and it would say give you a lesson. Students have that 1 20-minute iReady lesson each week, and that lesson always correlates with what we are currently learning. The other things that we use for math homework is IXL, and that is just like skill review. Like when you think of just like practice problems, that's where your IXL comes into play. that can either be spiral review or it's going to reflect our current learning. iReady and iExcel are both found in ClassLink. And again, if you're a parent at home and your child is next to you, I would ask them, hey, show me where that iExcel is. Show me how to get to iReady. Because it kind of puts the ownership on them. And they know where it is. They know how to find it. They know how to type in those skills. So some of it just looks like code words in iExcel. The students know how to access that. But both of those are fantastic resources. And if they are doing that every week alongside with coming to school, we will see growth in their math. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Garisco. I am going to jump in here to talk about our ELA benchmark, go over some celebrations of questions that we succeeded on, and then some questions that we are going to go back and review. So hopefully you can also help out at home. So here are some of our celebrations on questions like 8 and 9. 58% of students or more were able to successfully answer questions like these. And these questions really had to do with the meaning of general academic and domain specific words. So you can see question 9 asks the meaning of the word thumping. And our unit 1 in Wit and Wisdom, or ELA, was all about literal and figurative hearts. So this is really domain specific vocabulary. And then our question 8 asks, according to paragraph 2, the heart's actions are similar to, and if you went back to the text, it does say a water pump. So, but really quickly, here are our quarter 1 reading goals. So like I said, our first module in Wit and Wisdom was all about what it means to have a great heart, literally and figuratively. So first we did that by looking at famous people with figurative great hearts. In this case, we looked at a biography of the nurse Clara Barton. Then we also talk a lot about text structure, identifying the main ideas, and then supporting details. We also looked at a nonfiction text called The Circulatory Story, where we looked at a lot of text features such as headings and cartoons and captions and images, all of those fun things that make up a nonfiction text. Finally, we also practiced inferring, which is a skill that we will see a lot on these questions. It's a skill where you're not going to find the answer right in the text. You kind of have to use those context clues to figure out the information or the correct answer. Finally, we finished up with a lot of poetry, which was really fun, talking about elements of poetry and their structure and meaning. Here are our writing goals for quarter 1. We did a lot of informative writing with a 4-paragraph essay at the end of the module. Hopefully, your student was able to bring home one of their essays and brag about it to you. But within that essay, we practice writing a focus statement and supporting it with details. So that means adding in evidence from the text and then explaining how that evidence supports the focus statement. And then finally, our speaking and language goals. We do Socratic seminars, which are basically a big circle where the kids get to ask each other questions about the text and answer. So really, we're practicing our speaking and listening skills here by building on the thoughts of others, connecting ideas, and using evidence from the text. So we did that with both of our books that we read this quarter. First one was Circulatory Story. Second one was Love That Dog. And then going back to our language goals, again, talking about the difference between literal and figurative, as well as punctuating quotations, which was very helpful in our informative essays. So they all connect, all of our goals. So here is an example of one of the passages that our students would see on the benchmark. This poem, it's about a boy who likes to wear bright colors to school. And he meets a friend who dresses similarly, and they kind of bond about how it makes them feel special and unique, and how that's a good thing. I'm not going to make you read the entire passage, but that's a quick synopsis of it. So some of the questions that we noticed students getting wrong were questions about theme and evidence. So I like to explain theme as kind of like a life lesson that the author's trying to teach you. It's a lesson you can go tell your parents and they would be like, yeah, that's a good lesson. So the first question is, what is the theme of the poem? And I kind of have steps as to figuring out theme. We have a poster in our room that kind of defines theme and those following questions. And really, our kids should be thinking first, what is the problem in the story? In this case, it's that other kids might bully you for standing out, for wearing bright colors. That's the problem. Second question you're thinking to yourself is, what is the character solution in the text? So in this case, in the text, our main character, he realizes that it's important to embrace your differences, and he finds a friend who's similar. So then from there, after figuring out the problem, character solution, then you can ask yourself, like, what is the author trying to teach me? Or what can I learn from the character? And in this case, it's that it's okay to be different and to celebrate those differences. So hopefully with those 3 steps, students are able to figure out the theme without even looking at the answer choices, just kind of knowing in their head, okay, the theme, something along the lines of, it is okay to be different, to celebrate that. So then I would go through the answer choices and think, okay, which best fits that theme that we've already thought of in our head. And for question 1, D is the best answer choice. Take pride in being different. For question 2, this one, we usually see a lot of mistakes with evidence questions because it's asking you to go back into the text to support your answer from question 1. So if you get your theme wrong in question 1, it's likely that your answer in question 2 is also going to be incorrect. So it's really important that we get that evidence to support our original question. So for this one, again, keep in mind your original answer choice, which was take pride in being different, and then really just eliminate any obvious no's. For example, if you read through the answer choices, answer choice B and D really have nothing to do with taking pride in being different. It's really just some random lines from the text. So those ones are easy to cross out. Then you're left with A and C. From there, really, students have to pick the best choice that best matches taking pride in being different. I noticed a lot of students picking A for this one, and I think it might be because it's one of those top answer choices, and students might get lazy and not read through all of them. So that's another strategy we really emphasize during school and that you can emphasize at home is making sure to read every single answer choice and then picking the best one from there. And the best answer choice there was C. So that is theme and evidence. Again, this is a skill that we are continuously practicing during bank time, in our homework, even in class time. So here is the second passage from our quarter 1 benchmark. This one is called Heart Healthy Habits, and it is about heart healthy habits. It's ways to keep your heart healthy. One seemingly like obvious strategy in reading that actually needs to be like practiced and reinforced a lot with our kids is simply reading the title of a text. I always say titles and headings are almost like clues. They give you a really big hint as to what the passage is going to be about. So simply just reading Heart Healthy Habits and thinking, okay, it's going to be about tips to stay heart healthy. That's already going to set you up for success later with questions. So some of the questions we saw some mistakes in was finding the main idea. Again, this question here, question 6, is a part A, part B. So kind of like Mrs. Grisco was saying with the multi-select, usually if you get part A incorrect, it's probably going to lead to part B being incorrect. So these ones are really like a high focus for us because it's like a 2-for-1 basically. So in this question, it says part A, which sentence states the main idea of the passage? We've been practicing a lot with the main idea. I explain it as what the text is mostly about. And again, some strategies that we've used to figure out the main idea is what I just said is first, simply looking at the title. That really gives a big hint as to what the main idea is. If there are subheadings, that also helps. And if there are pictures, I know a lot of the times in TCAP and the benchmark, the passages will have pictures to support. Simply looking at the title and pictures usually gives a really big hint as to what the main idea is. Going off that, we've also practiced just like drawing a little picture on the side to kind of remind ourselves what each part was about. And finally, focusing on the intro and conclusion. Those are usually the best places to find kind of the summary or like the main idea of the passage. And again, another really big strategy that we try to emphasize is going back to the text. I think that is something that might seem obvious to us, but is a skill that we really want to emphasize and reinforce with our students. And it's something you can do at home too. It's just asking them to go back to the book they're reading, asking questions and having them go back to the text to support their answer. So for part A here, if you had read the text, you could see that heart healthy habits was kind of the main idea of this passage. So, ooh, we got part B first. However, D is the correct answer here with a little care. The heart and body can be kept healthy. Again, connecting back to that heart healthy habits. And then finally, in part B, again, it's evidence to support. Really here you're asking yourself which sentence best summarizes the passage and what was it mainly about. I notice a lot of students picking out small details, and that doesn't really encompass the entire passage. So for example, answer choices B and C can quickly be eliminated because those are really small details in the text. It's not really all about those small details. It's more about how having a healthy heart is easy with three things: good food, exercise, and sleep. So those were kind of those three main points we were trying to hit in part B. There's the answer. Alrighty, and the next question that we saw some mistakes on was summarizing. I explained summarizing as retelling the story in your own words. For this question in particular, though, it says which sentence from paragraph 2 best summarizes the paragraph. A tip that I like to tell our kids is whenever you see a paragraph number or a line number in a question, to automatically go back to the text to that paragraph. So as soon as you see paragraph 2, I would be going back and rereading it, asking myself, okay, what is this mainly about? How can I retell it in just one sentence? So for this one, again, you can eliminate A and C. Those are really small details if you go back to the paragraph. They're not really what it's all about. That leaves you with B and D. And if we had gone back to paragraph 2, I'm not going to waste our time. If we had gone back to the paragraph D, actually best captures the main idea. And this is our last question. This is conventions. So this is really grammar, and punctuating quotations has been a really big focus, especially with our essay writing. So really, this is just knowing capitalization rules. It is something that we practice every morning when we do our question of the day. It's something that we practice every day with our writing and in Bing Time. So again, it's really just reinforcing these rules. And in this case, obviously the first letter of any sentence needs to be capitalized, which all of the answer choices have. So then you go to the next step, and you have to have a capital letter at the start of a quotation. So here I would be looking through and seeing which answer choice has a capital D for don't. So my best answer choice here is C. So again, this question really is just knowing the rules of capitalization, which can be reinforced at home, and we are definitely reinforcing it at school. And finally, here is our ELA homework every week. At the beginning of the year, we send home a big old chart of the week and the IXL lesson and the challenge lesson. We also have students write it down every single day in their question of the day journals. So they should be having a code written there and they bring that journal home. From there, you go to ClassLink. Same as math, it's IXL. And in the corner, there's a little search bar, and you just have to search the 3-digit code there. Students either write down the regular lesson or the challenge lesson, depending on how they do in the morning with our question of the day. We also have fluency homework that we send home at the beginning of each week. So this is a small passage either from a poem or a text or a story that we are reading in class. And we ask that your child reads it 3 to 5 times to you or someone at home, someone just to listen to them. And from there, you kind of grade them with either a triangle, which means that, hey, you did well, but we can practice some more, or with a plus sign, which means, yep, they've got it. They're reading accurately and at a good rate. Those are the two things we're really looking for. And then as you go out throughout the days, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're looking for different things each time. So day 1 is just accurately reading. Am I getting all the words correct? Day 2 is reading with appropriate phrasing and pausing. Am I pausing at commas and periods? Is my voice going up when there's a question? Day 3 is reading with appropriate expression. Again, if there's an exclamation point, adding excitement to your voice, and so on. And then finally, my last day, day 4, is reading at a good pace and at a good volume. So by going through each of these days, focusing on a different skill, our students' fluency improves, and that just improves their reading, their confidence, and their ability to read and answer the questions on a benchmark.
Thank
So-
you so much, Ms. O'Connor. I was going to give you a little break from all of that. You did such a good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lots from ELA. The students are all working so hard in both subjects now. So we're going to keep up the good work. And so thank you too to the parents who were able to join tonight. It really does mean a lot to us. And it means a lot to your child that you guys are able to participate in stuff like this. Because we all want our kids to succeed. Our next benchmark assessment window is December 11th through the 20th. So we just want to make sure that your child is at school every day to ensure that they are well prepared for their tests. Make sure your child is going to sleep at an appropriate time too. A lot of our learning takes place early in the morning, and a sleepy child has a hard time, participating in class. So good sleeping habits, come to school, talk with your child about testing strategies, like ask them, not even like, what did you do in math today? But it's like, hey, what's a strategy that you can use to help you solve this problem? Or what's a strategy that you used in ELA today? Again, encourage plenty of rest, appropriate bedtimes, and eating nutritious breakfast on testing days. Protein is always a really good option. That helps our brains a lot. And it definitely makes the kids feel better too when they're eating enough protein. So eggs, oatmeal, and we would love to hear your feedback about this meeting. And if you have like any other questions too. So we have this QR code that you can scan, and you can submit any comments, questions, concerns. I believe Ms. Huff just put the link as well in the chat box. So if the QR code kind of scares you a little bit, there is a link in the chat portion of our meeting. So if you scroll up to the top of the meeting, you'll see a little bubble and it says chat. Click on that and you'll see along the side the link that Ms. Huff put in. So we'll give you all a few minutes to do that. Again, we really appreciate you guys for joining. for joining us tonight. And then the next slide is where we're going to pause for questions. So we'll give you all enough time to like click on this, scan it if you need to. And then we will open the floor to questions. And you can either unmute yourself if you wanted to ask a question, or you can type something in the chat box. But also, if you don't want to speak in front of everybody, you can definitely fill out that form. We can read what you're saying. So
I guess we can open up to any questions,
Yeah.
right? So in
Mhm,
the chat
mhm.
or off mute.
Yeah. And I can see in the chat too some of my families. I recognize some of our names. Thanks again for joining, everyone. And if you think of something later, like after you've had time to look at your child's report a little bit more in depth or look at their answer choices, anything, you can reach us on Remind. Obviously, you can message your teacher directly. We're always here. Happy to help.
Hi, afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. What about you? Everything is good?
Yes, yes. Do you have a question for us about benchmark material?
Yes, please. Benchmark materials just for Wednesday, this Wednesday, or for all Wednesday?
Just this Wednesday is when we're doing this meeting. We'll
Okay.
have another one after Q2 benchmark, but we will communicate that to you. So you'll get the same thing after that test. So, and that one we wouldn't have our Q2 benchmark until when we get back from winter break. So that would be in January.
January.
Very good question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The test is in December, but the benchmark night where we talk about the reports wouldn't be until January.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, I'm going to let our teachers go ahead and end this call. And families, if anything occurs to you after the fact, please feel free to reach out to your child's teacher. We're happy to answer those questions for you.
Yes, I know. And I see that I have a student right now whose family has messaged in the chat. I'm going to reach out to you in Remind to go over that question with you.
It was great seeing everyone tonight. Thank you for stopping by. And I think we can end it here.
Yeah, I'll go and end the call, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. And I will download an attendance sheet and send it to you. So if you'd like to offer your friends who came a Bink Buck tomorrow,
Yes,
that would be great.
absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Good night.